Alright, let's go. This video is gonna be a little bit more chill than usual. It's not gonna be scripted at all. It's gonna be just me talking about one big idea which has been sitting on my mind for a while now. I first started researching nutrition 3 years ago. This is when I first started lifting weights, and also the time when I was having intense brain fog from trying to study engineering in French while living in a foreign country. The story is complicated, but I just needed a solution. I needed to improve my brain. So I started researching nutrition, and at first it was kind of easy. It was simple advice: just eat healthy, eat protein, eat fiber, don't eat sugar and ultra processed foods, and you're gonna be fine. But then I started diving deeper into it, and I stumbled upon people like Paul Saladino, Dr. I don't know, Dr. Berg, Dr. That, Dr. This, all of these dudes preaching their own thing. Everyone's got a medical fucking degree, and they're all saying something like this super restrictive diet is gonna fix everything, and everyone is wrong, and the health industry is wrong, and this is wrong, and that is wrong. And I was so overwhelmed by this advice that I couldn't take it anymore. Just people preaching pure carnivore is gonna save your life and eating vegetables is toxic. Then some other dude saying that you should only eat vegetables, otherwise you're gonna die early. And some third dude just going fruit war and just dying. Some third dude just going fruit war and not having any protein and dying within 5 years. So this is basically the social media right now, and especially in the nutrition niche. There's so many people just preaching ultra restrictive diets and claiming that they're gonna fix your entire life, simply because there's this one study which found one mechanism which is happening in your liver when you eat broccoli, which is gonna be detrimental to your health. And that was when I realized that social media is just this huge space infested with nutrition bubbles. There's the carnivore bubble, there's the vegan bubble, there's keto, and there's this and that, and zeros, and everyone's basically sticking to his own ideology of eating and refuses to accept anything from other bubbles. And it doesn't help that science has its limits, and so people often reach a situation where they look selectively at the research that is confirming their ideas but ignore the research that is disproving it. And I got so tired of this that I started doing my own research on myself. I'm an engineer, I'm an engineering student, I'm not really a medical or scientist, but I have science background from my family. Like basically my dad is scientist, my stepmother is scientist, and everyone is a scientist. So I know some principles, but I don't claim to be a doctor. But I was conducting research on myself. I was trying things out. I tried keto for 3 months, I tried carnivore, and over the past 3 years, through trial and error, I have converged towards this new diet which I've developed through my own experience, and I gave it a name. I baptized it the Neo Mediterranean diet. Because I live in France, a lot of culture here is influenced by the Mediterranean diet, and I thought that Mediterranean diet was really good except for one aspect. I didn't like the lack of protein, especially animal protein. A lot of Mediterranean guys are kind of looking down on red meat like it was bad for health, but it was proven that it's good. Especially the leaner cuts and organ meats are really great for your health, and they're good for productivity, muscle gain, basically everything. A lot of people are still afraid of red meat because of research which was conducted in the past on red meat, which mixed together ultra processed red meat and high quality grass fed beef. And basically, the research showed that these meats together is gonna create colorectal cancer risk, cardiovascular disease risk, and even diabetes, I think. And even though it was proven that high quality grass fed, minimally processed red meat is beneficial to your health, a lot of people in the Mediterranean bubble are still afraid of it. I didn't like it, so I tried it for myself, and over weeks and months of eating high quality red meat, I've actually only felt better, and I think my performance has been better in every aspect of my life from eating animal products. So I started adding more red meat, more organ meat, eggs, more fish to my diet. I was eating high protein Mediterranean diet. Basically every aspect of my life has been better. I've had better cognitive performance, better performance in the gym and muscle gain, better social life. I just basically felt better from eating more high quality red meat. And other than that, I really liked the idea of standard Mediterranean diet. It was basically a diet based on a lot of vegetables and fruit, which are minimally processed, a lot of extra virgin olive oil, because I changed my mind on things like saturated fat. I used to think I used to be in this like kind of carnivore bubble and think that saturated fat is perfectly good for your health, but it's not. Saturated fat does create problems in high quantities. I still use butter. I still eat meat which is higher in fat than like the leanest cuts. But I dilute a lot of this fat with extra virgin olive oil. Basically, the basis of my fat intake is extra virgin olive oil, and on top of that, I have some duck fat and some butter. And I think this is the perfect equilibrium you can have in your fat distribution, because extra virgin oil is the best fat out there. Like, even no matter what you think about seed oils, I used to think seed oils would kill you, and now I think they're just low quality fat that you don't need to consume. Like, when you dive into the bubble of seed oils, you quickly realize that there is so much research that says that it's harmless, and there is also so much research that says that actually saturated fat is better, but then it was organized in the 60s and 70s, which was a long time ago, and they didn't have the right conditions for proper research, and there was this and trans fat and this bias and this. It becomes very complicated really quickly. My solution to the to the seed oil question was the final solution to the seed oil question was really simple. Just replace it with extra virgin olive oil. Like, the investment is not that hard of a burden. If you want to eat healthy, paying 10 euros a month buying high quality extra virgin olive oil, or even if it costs more than that, it's completely worth it. Because instead of eating seed oils, which may be harmless, but still they are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which can create inflammation. We don't know. Like, this is the thing about science. We don't really know if it's that harmful or if it's harmful at all. But it's just like this I don't know, Pascal's razor. I'm not gonna dive into the philosophy of it, but basically, if you can replace your seed oil with extra virgin olive oil, just do it. Because it has been proven scientifically that extra virgin olive oil is great for your health. It's great for heart health, it's great for antioxidants, it's not oxidizing that much, and it's just generally a superfood. While we don't really know much about seed oils. So when you don't know about one product, but you know that the other product is clearly beneficial, why would you take your chance with the first one when you can eat the second one? This is my logic. You've got extra virgin olive oil, I've got grass-fed butter. Basically all of the butter in Europe, and especially in France, unless it's the cheapest one in the store, is grass-fed by default. So grass-fed butter is a lot better for your health than some ultra-processed bullshit butter, or God forbid, margarine. Never buy margarine. It's just a stupid idea, because margarine, well, in the past it was even worse because it had trans fat, but now it's still saturated fat. Like, you get the same thing. No matter what the package says, vegetable based, healthy, omega-3s, all of this is a complete pile of bullshit, because it's still saturated fat, and saturated fat is an independent risk factor for heart disease. No matter how many times you may think that saturated fat is good for you, I still eat meat. You see, like, I'm not preaching veganism, I'm not preaching a plant-based diet. I'm just saying that too much saturated fat is not great, but some saturated fat is beneficial to your health. This is what I believe. This is my own opinion, which is derived from all the research I went through and from my own experience. Now, there are people online who preach an ancestral diet. Dudes like Paul Saladino, they say that basically in the past we used to eat a lot of fatty meat. Now, we used to eat a lot of meat in the past, and a lot of organ meat and fruit, and I think this is a great thing for your health. But one thing which a lot of these people misinterpret is that when they talk about ancestral diet, they usually mean ribeye steak from a fat cow, which is not what our ancestors used to eat. The ancestral diet was made of hunted wild game, things like deer, bison. These things weren't really fat. Like, if you've ever eaten wild game, it's usually a very lean piece of meat. It's like 5% fat or lower. This means that our ancestors actually didn't eat a lot of saturated fat. And indeed, if you look at the Hadza people who are still living this ancestral hunter-gatherer lifestyle in Africa, when you look at their LDL cholesterol, it is very low. It's like in 60s and 70s, which is not consistent with the modern ancestral diet idea. So I'm all in on eating like our ancestors did. I'm all in on eating a lot of organ meat and lean meat. But you need to be careful how you interpret information found online, because a Wagyu ribeye steak is not really ancestrally consistent. And the main source of a lot of misinterpretation online is the fact that people tend to look at mechanisms rather than outcomes. Intentionally or not, a lot of people online, especially in the nutrition area, would look for studies that look at biochemical reactions happening in your liver and then draw conclusions from that. For example, a lot of people online claim that eating cruciferous vegetables is bad for you because they contain isothiocyanates. And these molecules basically bind to your iodine. It was proven, I think, in vitro or in mice, something like that. They bind to your iodine and they prevent its absorption into the thyroid. And the lack of iodine in your thyroid gland is gonna create hormonal problems and gonna cascade in things like weight gain and diabetes. And people start drawing conclusions from that. But this is just one biochemical mechanism among thousands upon thousands of different ones. And if you look at any kind of food, you're gonna find the molecule which is gonna do something in your body which is not gonna be good for your health. For example, there is fructose, and there's been studies which showed that eating fructose is gonna make it bind to some kind of enzymes in your liver and it's gonna prevent your mitochondria from producing energy or something like that. But this is an isolated mechanism. When instead you look at outcome studies, for example, when you take a randomized controlled trials where there's one group of people eating one diet and the other group of people eating the same thing, but now they add broccoli or some other cruciferous vegetable to it, there is always consistent proof that the group that ate the cruciferous vegetables was better. They had better health, lower risk of cardiovascular disease, lower risk of diabetes, and basically there were studies that found no result. Like there were studies that found the same thing happening in both groups, but most of them found that it was much better to eat these vegetables than to not, and not a single one found that it was actually detrimental to your health. Likewise, vegans used to believe that eating eggs was bad for you because it contained dietary cholesterol. But here's the thing, your body knows how to regulate cholesterol. Your cholesterol is not high because your body is struggling to lower it, but rather because it intentionally increased cholesterol levels because of your dietary choices and inflammation and your metabolic health. And the process of regulation is happening at the moment of the absorption of cholesterol. So it's happening in your intestines. So when you get dietary cholesterol, right at the moment when it gets absorbed into your bloodstream, there is this mechanism of regulation happening. So it's like you've got the control right at the entry. There is no way you can overconsume dietary cholesterol and actually have problems from it, but you can undereat it. You can actually have not enough dietary cholesterol, and this is not great. So you can eat as much cholesterol as you want, and as long as your fat and dietary profile is healthy, you're not gonna have high cholesterol from that. In fact, it's gonna be beneficial for your hormonal health because now your body has enough baseline dietary cholesterol to produce everything it wants without increasing it up to the heaven. And it took the American Heart Association something like 60 years to realize this. Like the research that proved that dietary cholesterol was not harmful and not a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. It happened in like 1960s. But the AHA only admitted this a couple of years ago. So you don't always have to believe these governmental structures because they're really slow. They don't really take high quality research. Sometimes they're flawed. Like, we're all humans. And people in the government are humans too, even if it's not intentional. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes they are sponsored by companies, and that's when you should be really careful about the guidelines. But most of the time they just make mistakes, they don't take the right research, there's bureaucracy and there's other problems. So I think most of the guidelines are good, but some of them are just outdated, that are based on the old research which was either skewed by companies or just not conducted in the right manner. And they ignore the modern advances in science. So I got quite sick of this and I developed my own diet, and I'm gonna go really quick through what it is and what are the main pillars of it. So basically the new Mediterranean diet is a version of Mediterranean diet with high meat and high animal products, good animal products. So my new Mediterranean diet is based around only 3 fats. There's extra virgin olive oil, which makes 60% of my total added fat intake. Then there is butter, which is 20%, and then there's duck fat, which is also 20%. So that's 60, 20, 20. Extra virgin olive oil for dressings and for most of my stuff that I cook. Butter for taste and for sauteing onions and garlic, and duck fat for high heat cooking. For example, searing a steak, it's duck fat because the other two are gonna smoke and I don't like it. This is all you need in terms of fat. Like, of course, you're gonna get fat from meat, you're gonna get fat from eggs, you're gonna get fat from dairy and nuts and other stuff, but these are the only 3 added fats that I use. Now, the other side of the diet is a lot of fiber, which usually comes from sourdough bread, which comes from the bakery down the street, which I really like. There's also a lot of vegetables, no broccoli just because I don't like the taste of it and I think that there's much better things to eat. Don't torture yourself with something like Brussels sprouts. I think they're absolutely disgusting. Well, some people like the taste, but I just hate it. It's not my taste. I just don't like it. You can eat if you want it. There is also a ridiculously high amount of sauteed shallots and garlic. These are my staple. I do this all the time when I cook meat. I would just saute them in what is left in the pan, and that's going to give this huge boost for my gut microbiome, and also it adds a huge amount of taste. I think shallots are superior to onions. I'm sorry all you guys who prefer onions, but that's a different point. A lot of arugula, a lot of tomatoes, and a lot of mozzarella which go into the salad, a lot of olives, extra virgin olive oil on top, some basil or something like that, and this makes a perfect salad. Sometimes potatoes and sweet potatoes. Rice when I cook something from Asia or I make a risotto, but rarely grains. Grains, I still eat grains. I'm not against grains, but I don't eat many of them because I simply don't need. I consume so much protein, fat, and fiber that when I eat a couple of fruits at the end, it's satiating enough for me to not eat any complex carbohydrates. But sometimes I may have a bowl of rice made in the Asian way, without soy sauce though, because estrogenics, bro. A lot of meat, a lot of lean meat, a lot of organ meat. My favorite one, absolute best, is beef heart. Beef heart is a very lean meat because it's working during all the lifespan of the cow, basically. It's like 5% fat, a lot of coenzyme Q10, which is incredibly good for heart health, and a lot of people actually supplement it, especially the geeks. I eat something like 200, sometimes 300 grams of beef heart in one go, and it tastes really good, it's really cheap, it's good for health, and it's just a superfood. Once you get used to it and you learn to cook it the right way, also beef liver once a week because it's so full of micronutrients that you shouldn't eat it more often than that. Otherwise, I really like ground beef steaks. Also, I usually eat 4 to 5 eggs a day in the form of an omelette, and sometimes I would add fish. I supplement with fish oils because omega-3s are vitally important to your brain and to your cognitive function. But I wouldn't eat that much fish because of microplastics and lead. But when I would eat, I would choose those who are smaller. The smaller the fish, the less toxins it accumulates. Things like huge things like tuna and some kinds of salmon are actually pretty bad for your health because they accumulate all of the lead through eating smaller fish. The smaller the fish, the shorter its lifespan and the less lead and cadmium and mercury it's gonna contain. And less microplastics too. So I would usually eat something like mackerel, sardines, anchovies. These are my 3 favorite. They are the ones which are the highest in omega-3s and also the lowest in heavy metals. Sometimes herring and trout. I would also eat some fruit for fibers and micronutrients. I would usually finish a meal with an apple or a banana. But because I eat them at the end, the sugars and fructose which is found in these fruit is actually going to be absorbed much slower than if you ate it on an empty stomach. So you're not going to get this high glycemic spike. You're not going to get this blood glucose jumping up and down all the time. You're going to get it nice and slow, and this is why I usually eat it at the end. I don't eat any added sugar. Sometimes I would eat honey before going to the gym, but just to boost my performance because I should be careful. Honey is still a lot of sugar. It's not as damaging to your gut microbiome as ultra-processed sugar, but it's still sugar. And speaking of which, gut microbiome is crucial. When I started drinking kefir, I saw so much improvement. It was incredible. I think kefir is a superfood, and I also like Russian sauerkraut. Wait, I'm gonna show you. I actually make my own. I'm gonna keep it away from sunlight so that I don't kill the precious bacteria. But this is basically fermented cabbage and carrots. And this tastes incredibly nice. Well, I've got a Russian palate. I've been eating it since I was a child, so but it is also incredibly good for your gut health. This one little jar contains something like 40 trillion bacteria. And these 40 trillion bacteria, you don't have to eat them all in one go, are gonna drastically improve the diversity of your gut microbiome, and they're gonna basically affect your entire health and especially your brain, because your brain is getting a lot of its essential nutrients from gut bacteria. 95% of your serotonin is made in the gut, and 50% of your dopamine is made in the gut. And also you make GABA in the gut, which is really good for relaxation and stress reduction. So absolutely crucial. Don't listen to carnivore guys saying that you need zero fiber, you don't care about your gut microbiome, that it's gonna adjust. The problem with animal products is that we're so good at absorbing them, and they're so nutrient efficient that by the time they get to your colon, by the time they get to your large intestine, there is no food left for bacteria. And so your bacteria die off and they cannot produce your serotonin anymore, they cannot produce your dopamine anymore. And now your brain is suffering from this. So don't listen to this stuff and keep feeding your bacteria. Keep improving your gut microbiome. I can tell you firsthand that once I had some kefir, I literally felt better within 2 hours just because of the sheer amount of dopamine which was already made by the bacteria inside the bottle. But also in the long term, after a couple of days, you're gonna start that you just genuinely feel much better. It is a no-brainer to me. You should absolutely feed your gut bacteria and eat meat together with that. You don't have to choose one ideology. It's not like we live in North Korea and you have to go full Juche or Soviet Union, Stalin, and come on, bro. It's not like the survival of human race depends on not eating broccoli. It is not true. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I think eating any kind of diet which is not ultra processed is already 90% of eating healthy. And after that, you can start optimizing things like, yeah, maybe this kind of vegetable is better for my health than this one. Maybe cooking spinach is gonna reduce this kind of anti-nutrient in it. Like, all of this nerdy stuff is secondary. You should first start by just eating a complete diet made out of fiber, protein, animal and vegetable products, and you're gonna be completely fine. Like, I haven't felt better in my life. I didn't feel this good at all when I was on keto, when I was on borderline carnivore. I didn't feel good. In fact, I felt kind of like weird. But now I feel better than ever because of Russian sauerkraut. Oh, my precious bacteria. I don't want to kill the bacteria from the UV light from the sun, so I'm gonna put it away. But so that's it. Just eat food. Eat food, eat healthy, and exercise, and sleep. The 3 things you need, and maybe have a social life. This is 4. That is literally it. Okay, thank you for watching. I'm gonna wrap it up. It's time to eat some lunch. I'm gonna make some eggs and a salad, and I hope you're gonna have a nice time. Goodbye.